Good morning or afternoon. Hello. Another session in Howard's Garage this morning. This presentation is going to be a short one over a relatively short chapter. We're talking about chapter 11, which is caffeine and some of the other some of the other xanthine drugs such as theophylline and theobromine that are found in that same category. And that's what we're going to talk about this day. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to get started on that right away. So, caffeine. The chapter is titled Caffeine, but we're going to talk about several. I just thought that was funny. I still think that's funny. That is a bathed cat, by the way, not a cat with the Jones necessarily. You can see it sitting in a sink. But coffee, the drug, will sometimes make you feel like that if you've done too much of it. You can overamp on coffee, and it will make you feel and behave somewhat weird. Caffeine, the active psychoactive agent, the drug, the CNS stimulant that's found in coffee is caffeine. And caffeine belongs to a family of minor stimulants known as methylxanthines or methylized xanthines. Xanthine is a Greek word. It means yellow. And when these substances are extracted from the plants that they're found in, they're all of a yellow hue. So the xanthines are yellow drugs. And caffeine is found primarily in coffee, although there's higher levels of caffeine found in tea. It's just that you prepare the tea differently and don't get as high a caffeine load as you might otherwise. Theophylline is the xanthine stimulant that we primarily associate with tea. And theobromine is taken from the cacao tree. It's chocolate and chocolate products. Theobroma means God's food, by the way. So it's the food of the gods. We'll talk about that a little later. Caffeine is the most commonly used drug in the whole big, wide, entire world. More people use this drug on a daily basis than any other. It's found in coffee, it's found in tea, it's found in soft drinks, it's found in snacks, it's found in over-the-counter medications. In fact, this drug's pretty ubiquitous, and in our culture it's kind of hard to get through a week without using it in some fashion, even if you're trying not to, because it's in places you wouldn't think it would be. It's also, these are over-the-counter medications here that contain caffeine as an active ingredient. We'll talk about that a little more in depth in the next chapter on the OTC products. And this, of course, is a lovely little cup of coffee that makes me want to go in and get another cup myself, although I still have one with me this morning. And OTC products, what's that doing there? Oh, in OTC products, caffeine. I thought I'd misplaced a slide. Pardon me. OTC products, analgesics. Analgesics are compounds that are used for pain relief. It's an analgesic alleviates pain, and over-the-counter analgesics generally have caffeine in them. can have caffeine in them. Cold and flu relief products can have caffeine in them. There are so many products, in fact, that that contain caffeine that some of them find it necessary to remark that they're caffeine free. It's not uncommon to find these stimulants occurring simultaneously in consumer products. Like I said a few minutes ago, if you drink tea, you're going to get a dose of caffeine and theophylline because it's got both in it, and it's hard. It's impossible, really, to separate them out. You usually brew coffee at a higher temperature than tea. So the hotter you brew the beverage, the more of the psychoactive substance you're probably going to get out of there. So tea's brewed at a lower temperature, you get less caffeine release, and consequently there's less caffeine in the serving. Also, we use a much lesser amount of tea than we do of coffee to make a cup. Caffeine is contained in Coca-Cola, not because it's a natural component, if you remember, but when the Pure Food and Drug Act was enacted in 1906, one of the first products that was challenged by that was Coca-Cola, because at that time it was false advertising. Coca-Cola had neither Coca nor cola in it as an ingredient. They had removed the coca, and it never had cola. But they took the cocaine out and put caffeine in as a stimulant. And when they were challenged under the PF&D, they decoconized the coca leaves. They took the cocaine out of the coca leaves and reintroduced the decoconized leaves back into the formula, leaving caffeine in as a replacement stimulant, which kind of makes things interesting when you're getting decaf stuff. If you're getting decaf coffee, you actually have to decaffeinate the coffee. And if the coffee companies want to charge you more for having decaffeinated the coffee, that makes a little sense. But suppose you're having a decaffeinated soft drink like caffeine-free Coca-Cola or Pepsi or something like that. Since you have to put the caffeine in as an ingredient, why would they charge you to leave the caffeine out? It's not like they have to extract the caffeine from the preparation process. It's just a question I've always wondered about. I think it has to do with creative marketing and making you think you're paying them to do something for you. But actually, it's cheaper to make a decaffeinated product because you're not putting caffeine in it. Anyway, caffeine is the active agent that you'll find in over-the-counter alertness aids such as NoDoz and Vibrant. In fact, it's the only ingredient that you'll find in that. If you're a careful consumer, and I know you all are, you look at and you want to take these medications, you look at the label. NoDoz consists of 200 milligrams of caffeine. Vibrant consists of 200 milligrams of caffeine. Now, which one's the best? Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's all you get. There is no better in alertness aids. And caffeine has always been the active agent in energy drinks. This is the first one. And I don't know if you guys can read this. I don't know what your computer screens are like. But this is Jolt Cola. It's been around for about, I don't know, maybe 30 years. I'm not sure. And the logo is all of the sugar and twice the caffeine of other beverages. And that's why it's called Jolt. It gives you a charge, a jolt, right? Coffee is, and colas for sure, are more recent drinks that have, that Europeans and Americans have fallen in love with. In Europe anyway. Marco Polo went to China and he brought tea back with him. He also brought pasta technology. So when you're having noodles and things, that wasn't something the Italians invented, or the dumplings, the raviolis and stuff like that. That's Chinese technology. I never understood why when he brought noodles back with him from China and introduced it into Europe and to Italy, and it caught on big time over there, why he didn't bring chopsticks back too, which is the only proper way to eat noodles. But anyway, he brought tea back with him, and tea became a hit. And tea was an awfully good beverage to have, because if you boiled your water and made tea, you were probably not going to get typhoid, which you will do from the bad water that was all over Europe at the time. So boiling water to make tea made a huge difference. Now, in what was to become the United States over here in the colonies, we were big tea drinkers too, particularly in the New England area. By far, most Americans drank tea than they did coffee, and we didn't know much about coffee down here. Although coffee as a beverage, was known to the indigenous people of the South of the Americas, down in South America, Central America, Mexico, and on up into Texas and parts north. But so was chocolate, cocoa. So there was in South and Central America, particularly among the Mayans and the Aztecs, cocoa was a big drink. And anyway, coffee replaced teas, or began to replace tea in the American heart after this little insurrection here, which is the Boston Tea Party. Now, what we know from having talked about tobacco is that the American colonists had already been having trouble with King James II 150 years before the Boston Tea Party, about taxing tobacco and things like that, and their tea. And it came to a head here, and they had the Boston Tea Party, which presaged the American Revolution, and away they went. Xanthines, the drugs, are not particularly dangerous, but they do have some unpleasant effects. And you know this if you've had too much of them. You'll get a rapid heartbeat, feels like your heart's going to jump out of your chest. You'll get palpitations associated with heart rhythm, nervousness, agitation, irritability, just being cranky, sleepy, inability to concentrate. All of this stuff's going on when you have too much caffeine in your system. And there's a withdrawal syndrome, which, like most withdrawal syndromes, will mimic some of the things that you get, or rebound from some of the things you get with overuse of the drug. So that your withdrawal syndrome also includes nervousness. When you're addicted to caffeine, and it is an addictive substance, this is what it looks like. You're nervous, you're agitated, you have peripheral tremors, you shake, you're cranky, you have a hard time concentrating, you have a headache, there's an increased need for sleep, and if you drink some more coffee, all of this will go away. And which is a key tell as to whether this is something else going on, or is it an addiction. If you take some more of the drug that you're addicted to, then what happens? the withdrawal syndrome is alleviated and may disappear entirely. So keep that in mind. For years, people have looking for something to try, for an illness to try to tie caffeine use into. The things that I heard as a kid were basically that coffee would stunt your growth if you drink too much coffee. And because I grew up in a racist family in the old South, that if I drank coffee it would turn me black, which I assumed was supposed to be a bad thing. But the years of research, there's no serious illness to which caffeine can be attached as a causative factor. It doesn't cause fibrocystic breast tumors, which it was rumored to for a while. It doesn't actually cause heart malfunctions. It can make things worse if you already have one, but it doesn't actually cause it. So we can't think of anything really that coffee can attach to as causing that. There is hardly any risk whatsoever of overdose in terms of drinking coffee. However, if you start gobbling caffeine and look-alike pills, if you start gobbling caffeine and no-dose and Vivarin, or if you get powdered caffeine or caffeine that's been isolated as something other than a content in a beverage or something along those lines, now you're running some risks, and there could be heart attacks and strokes and things like that associated, but not just with the beverage. Theophylline is the stimulant that's found in tea, and these ladies here are in Sri Lanka, and they're harvesting tea leaves. And you do that by just picking the top layer of leaves about 6 inches down. So, they're always coming up, and you're getting fresh tea. You don't tear the whole plant down like you do in some other harvests. And xanthine stimulant that's extracted from that or that's found in the beverage is theophylline. And theophylline is a mild stimulant. It's not a heavy one at all. You have to drink a lot of tea to get the same symptomologies that you would get from a caffeine withdrawal, from a coffee withdrawal. It's a relatively safe drug, and you can see here that it's used, thioacetylene forte is salbutamol and theophylline tablets that are used to treat asthma. And the nebulizer here that the little boy is laughing at as he's using it to treat asthma. And you breathe in the mist that's created here by a nebulizer, and it's a medicated mist with theophylline in it. And when the theophylline hits the swollen and tight bronchial membranes that cause asthmatic conditions, those membranes shrink back and they open up, and the airways clear, and you can breathe better. It may make you a little shaky. People who do rescue inhalers or things like that, or use the daily dose. I forget what the brand name of it is. It's a little disc inhaler, but it's got theophylline and maybe some other stimulant drugs in it. They report being shaky and a little tremulous, or maybe being restless. Can't if they take it at night, they can't go to sleep. But it's a relatively mild stimulant. And this is the food of the gods, theobromine. It's magical, it's mystical, It's one of those drugs that, since it is the food of the gods among the Mayans and the Aztecs, I'm not sure about the Mayans, only upper class people got to partake of it. Folks who were part of the of Aztec royalty or high Aztec society got this. The little worker bees didn't get to do cocoa. It was for the upper class only. It was made into all kinds of concoctions. They manufactured their own chocolate, they ate it, they made cocoa, and they drank it. And they still drink it. There's, cocoa consumption down in Latin America, down in Central America, Mexico, still pretty high. And these are some theobromine products. Chocolate, right? And cocoa. It's getting about that time of the year. I think there's 3 days in Texas every year when you could, it's cold enough to really appreciate a good hot cup of cocoa. If you're in Utah, Wyoming, Dakota, that changes a little bit. Oddly enough, you find theobromine in its incarnation as chocolate, as coca, in these products, dietary supplements, Cocoa Lift, Keto Cocoa, and Swanson Fruit Spectrum, Full Spectrum Cacao, and cacao's the raw cocoa. And you see what those are for. The keto is a nutritional aid. Chocolate and cacao are basically energy enhancements to make you more energetic, because that's what stimulants do, right? Anyway, in conclusion, these methylxanthines are a class of minor stimulants. They're commonly found in food, in beverages, and medications, and dietary supplements. And they're so prevalent, in fact, they really are kind of hard to avoid. You find them everywhere. And people who are, of course, sensitive to these substances, like people who are sensitive to peanuts, are sensitive to dairy products or something like that. We have to keep our eye on the ball with the things that the things that we eat or drink, to make sure that we're not consuming something that contains an allergen in it that could cause us harm. Anyway, that's a risk factor. But other than that, these substances pose very little risk to anyone for anything. And even though they do produce addiction, and I don't ever want to downplay addiction, it's an addiction that can cause you to be overweight, jittery, nervous, cranky, all of this kind of stuff. But the health risk that's entailed in this is much lower than the health risk entailed, say, in a nicotine addiction or in an alcohol addiction. And even though these substances produce addiction, they pose no particular risk in withdrawal. As I noted in the last chapter, though, sometimes, and this was true in the 90s and moving up into the 21st century, if you go into a treatment center, you may find that they cut you off from sugar and chocolate and caffeine and all of that good stuff as a part of your treatment. Because it is recognized that they are addictive, and all addictions are basically not good and uncool and all of that good stuff, even if it's not really dangerous. So. Told you it was going to be short. I just hit the highlights in that, like I did with the chapter on the nicotine. that's that. So I will see you in the next one, which will be probably a little lengthier, but we'll be talking about over-the-counter medications and dietary supplements. So talk to you soon.